good evening. This is Maestro Cortella with the Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today, we have a 1v1 on Green Tooth Jungle, the fixed version. Our players are Noisy, playing as the Imperial Guard Inquisitor, a disabling and debuffing commander who can also become a tanky melee hero. And his opponent is Troillet, now switching out the Space Marine Apothecary for the Little Orc Mekboy. This is a teleporting orc range commander with some support and disruption spells. Alright, so we see Toilailee, or Troillet, now switching heroes, and I mean this is just something that we can see in competitive play. He may be reasoning that Noisy has figured out his Apothecary, or he may have just lost confidence in his ability to win with the Apothecary against Noisy's Imperial Guard. So he's switching things up. And I mean, it's like a counterpick. That is a word that's commonly used in competitive gaming, counterpicking. And it can work on many different levels. It could be that this is a better matchup. It could be that Troillet is more confident in his Mekboy. It could just be that he needs to switch things up. Get Noisy thinking differently, or that he now may have Noisy playing in a certain way, and this may be able to work against what Noisy is currently doing, even though what Noisy is currently doing is being effective against the Apothecary. Attempt to finish off the Guardsman in retreat by the Mekboy. Can he do it? So close. He can do it. That should be it. Wow. So already an early squad wipe by Troillet. In my opinion, a little unexpected. I mean, that Guardsman squad just took so much damage. I think maybe just staying in a little too long against double Shooter Boys. And right now, in their current form, a single squad of Shooter Boys would win against unupgraded Guardsmen. The Shooters do more damage out of the gate, and there were two of them, and then he was able to finish off with the Mekboy in retreat, teleporting after them, which is often one of the advantages of any kind of jump unit or teleporting unit. The Mekboy usually not the strongest in that regard, since he's primarily a ranged unit, with not too good melee damage. But I mean, in that case, that Guardsman squad was just so low in health that he was able to finish it off. And that can have some pretty serious implications that Troillet has managed to get that loss that early on in the game. One of the things we already see that's completely different from all three games in the past is that it's now... we actually see that, well, now Troillet actually has more squads. Well, he had more squads than Noisy. And it was only a temporary thing for as long as he had killed that squad of Guardsmen, but it was the first time that had happened. Noisy, nevertheless, still has a bit of control, a bit of a lead in map control. He's still got that VP lead, and he's actually still threatening with that VP lead. But I think he's going to have a little more trouble with, considering he lost a squad of Guardsmen. So this is definitely a very, very different matchup compared to Space Marines. Troillet can put down his generators earlier. We already see that he's putting down a full power farm. His generators are just down way earlier than they were when he was playing as Space Marines. Now, his ability to pressure the Sentinel, generally his ability to pressure the Sentinel is a little bit greater than as the Apothecary. Even though the tax can definitely, even though double tax are very threatening to a Sentinel, Shooter Boys do more damage. They just do more damage, especially with that Shooter Knob. They can do more damage to the Sentinel. There are two of them, and he has a teleporting Mekboy, another ranged unit that can even teleport after the Sentinel. Orcs, of course, one of their great competitive advantages in Tier 1 especially is that they're usually a pretty strong race for bashing. They usually can be aggressive, they can do a lot of damage, they can force off opponents in early engagements, and then get power bashes, in part because all of their starting units pretty much do a lot of damage, especially upgraded Shooter Boys. Upgraded Shooter Boys are usually the staple. Of course, they were pretty much the standard, if not the only thing back in retail, and even though their damage has been nerfed in Elite Mod, the double shooter opening is still definitely very standard, and it's still definitely very good. I mean, we see it from Troillet. We see even in a tournament setting where, again, people are going to be doing what they need to do to win, not to just vary builds just for the sake of it. We see a double shooter build from Troillet. This double shooter build will also be very, very threatening to the Inquisitor as well. But the positioning now for the double shooters is very, very dangerous. Definitely needs to get the 3-model shooter squad out of there. It's definitely going to lose some models. Luckily, with the shooter knob being so tough that he definitely won't lose the squad. So we do see Noisy with an artillery spotter squad, but we also see now Troillet, even though he does not have the lead in VPs, I would say he has to be at a tech lead. He has so much more resources. I don't think he's invested as much as Noisy in units. He's only bought 4 squads, or he's had 4 squads, while Noisy has actually had 6 because he lost one. And now Troillet, for the first time in the series, is going to Tier 2 first. He's going to Tier 2 first, and he has pretty much the tech lead. But he was also able to invest less, in part because, again, he's actually playing as orcs. He has a few upgrades, but he's playing as orcs, so his starting units are not really as expensive as that for a Space Marine player. Mekboy is moving around. The Mekboy is a hero who, I'm not sure, but I've been told that the Mekboy is a very, very effective hero, particularly in 1v1 games. In fact, I think the general consensus right now is that the Mekboy and the Commando Knob are the stronger orc heroes in 1v1 games, as opposed to the War Boss. And I think the Mekboy may even be considered better than the Commando Knob, although I would rely on someone a little bit more experienced, like Riku or Torpid, to chip in, since of course they will inevitably watch these videos, to chip in with their opinion of what orc hero is better or good for Tier 1, or I mean 1v1. The Mekboy, the big advantage the Mekboy has is his teleporting, which is incredibly useful in 1v1 games for map control, for having a free counter to set up teams, for even what we saw before where he was able to chase after that guardsman squad and finish it off. So Troillet's actually looking really, really strong, to be honest. Despite Noisy's lead in victory points, Troillet is looking super strong. With the power bashes that he's had, the Death Tread that's coming out on the field, this stumpy tin can of an Orc Walker, and the pressure he's putting on Noisy to keep him in his base. Noisy trying to make a play for the middle, leading in with the artillery spotters, which is unfortunately just not the right choice. I mean, just a little bit of a misplay from him, and surprised to see that from a high-level player. He really needs to keep those artillery spotters back out on the field, since they play a very critical role in Noisy's ability to advance in, basically, in engagements. They're really, really needed for the Ludas to stop them. Anyway, he now sees the Death Dread, and this time it's Noisy caught in the situation where there's now a vehicle out on the field, and he's the one who's not even to Tier 2 yet and doesn't have the AV to stop this vehicle. And Noisy's actually looking in a terrible position, because this is going to move up, destroy all the power farm. Noisy's resources are not looking good. He does have a nice amount of requisition income, but his power income is about to go down the drain. And he actually has very, very little of the map. And this is also a big part of the Death Dread. Now, I mean, the Death Dread is something that, like, just comparing walkers to themselves, to each other, like if you compared the Death Dread to the Space Marine Dreadnought, or just the other Dreadnoughts in the Wraith Lord, the Death Dread would not be considered the best one. But in my opinion, in some ways it is the best walker, not for how it compares to other walkers, but for how it contributes to basically getting the win. Mainly the fact that the Death Dread is a time-sensitive unit. It's a very situational, time-sensitive unit that helps facilitate wins, because you can get it early. It's so cheap, and then its role is actually more to bash generators than it is to actually fight armies. But I mean, in that role, that is a role that helps to win the game. And I mean, to be honest, at this point, it's actually really looking like Troillet's going to win the game. His map control is absolutely commanding, and this is kind of what I'm talking about, where we've got a game between some great players, and this game isn't even close at the moment, to be honest. Certainly it doesn't look close, probably won't end up being close, and I mean, normally these are the kinds of matches that, were they not between high-level players, and were this not a tournament match, this is not a match that I would cast, or probably not Injured would cast either. But I'm doing it because it's a tournament match between high-level players. Oh my, and that's gotta be the end of the Sentinel. Yeah, Sentinel is done. No chance. So Sentinel's done. The Mekboy might actually go down. Nevertheless, I think despite the Mekboy going down, I think Troillet is at quite an advantage. Ooh, this Death Dread potentially in a lot of trouble, though. I think it's using its charge to get out of there. Path blocking with the Chimera. What a smart play. Path blocking with the Chimera. But the Death Dread, oh, it's not quite yet out of the range. Will that heavy weapon team does not manage to get another shot off. But, I mean, even that attempted micro path blocking the Death Dread with the Chimera to try to finish it off is, again, like just a play that I feel we really see in these high-level games between great players that we would not see in just any other game. Anyway, Death Dread does go down, so maybe Noisy is not out of this game as much as I think he is, but, I mean, things are still looking pretty bad for him. I mean, that was a nice little victory. His power income is terrible, though. Plus 20 to the plus 69 of Troillet, and Troillet's actually going to tier 3. Wow, I thought he was actually going to stay in tier 2, try to secure his advantage by putting out like another unit out on the field. But I mean, at this point, I'm not even sure what I would say like someone like Troillet should get from tier 2, because ultimately he's definitely going to know better than me. Infiltrated Ludas. Ludas take one shot on the Chimera, but now they are going to get force meleeed by the Guardsmen. And that actually does force off the Ludas and much of the AV that would answer to the Chimera. So Troillet, I mean, one of the reasons why going to tier 3 might not be the greatest choice is that he does not very readily have the resources to buy a tier 3 unit, whereas by the time tier 3 finishes, he probably would have already had a tier 2 unit out on the field, and that's something that could really be used to press his advantage, or really just cement his advantage. Possibly even just win the game with some kind of tier 2 purchase. I'm not sure, though. Possibly a Weird Boy. I mean, a Weird Boy would do pretty well against a lot of things. Certainly against Guardsmen. It could do damage to the Chimera, but the Chimera could also probably micro around it and avoid getting hit. Mekboy, meanwhile, still out on the field, so that actually is a little bit of disadvantage that Troillet is working with. That if he wants to get a tier 3 unit out on the field, that's even more time when he will not have his Mekboy. And if he just buys back the Mekboy, then there really is, then going to tier 3 really wouldn't have been a good choice. Anyway, Noisy not happy about losing his Chimera. Apparently it was a pathing issue, but he's right in there in that firing arc, and the Luda is a very, very powerful anti-vehicle unit. It does not snare, but it does a huge amount of damage in a single shot. I think 2 shots will take out a Chimera, especially if one of them is a rear armor shot. I'm going to say if one of them is a rear armor shot, it will most definitely take out a Chimera in 2 shots. 2 shots! I mean, that's such a small margin of error. Stick bombs going in, attempted on the Guardsmen. Those are stun bombs, though, so stun bombs going in, but stun bombs into sticks. Classic setup, and too many units are just, or too many of these Imperial Guard units are just walking right into it. Noisy is now in full retreat. And the Inquisitor might even get finished off in retreat, and I knew it, she was going to. We have some fully upgraded Slugger Boys, and that's actually a concede from Noisy. So the series is now evened out to 2-2, and it could be anyone's game to finish it off. I will be completely honest and say that I actually do not know who's going to win yet. I know that there's a 5th game, but I have not watched it yet. We will see. In any case, hope you enjoyed it. Have a good night, and Game 5 will be coming right up.